I want to start tonight by challenging everyone in here to literally hit the pause button in their life. Life's so fast, we get this like grind going on. You wake up, go to work, you go home, you eat, go to the gym, do whatever you do, go to sleep, wake up the next day, and it's over and over and over and over and over again. But how many times do we literally just stop, hit the pause button, and then kind of reflect and think where we are right now? And that's the question I kind of want us to start with is, where has your life led you to at this moment in time? Where are you in your workplace? Where are you in your relationships? Where are you in your personal life, in your family life? How are you doing? It's a very simple question, but I bet you every one of you here, your mind's kind of tossing and turning. I want to ask you, where's your confidence brought you to in your life? Where's your strength brought you to in your life? Where's your abilities? Where's the purpose that God has for you brought you to? I'm going to stand here today, guys, in front of everyone here today and be completely genuine. For the first time in my life, I can say that for once, my confidence has been failing me. Honestly, my strength has been failing me. I've been wrestling with God. I've been wrestling with things. I had this test a month ago. If you guys don't know me, I'm an anesthesiology resident at Albany Med. And this one test kind of burdened me so bad, it felt like it had the power to determine my future. You see, if you didn't pass that test, you're out of the program. And all this 12 years I put in of time could have went to waste. And I always had confidence in my test skills. But for once, my confidence was failing. My strength was failing. And if I look around my whole life, I can tell you guys that if I actually tallied up all the responsibilities I have, it's kind of smothering. I could be drowned in my responsibilities and the pressure on my back and the things people are counting on me for. And that's what the thing is. If your strength is failing you, if your confidence is failing you, if your purpose is failing you, if everything is just kind of beat down, where do you find yourself? And that's our culture tells us real strength is depending on yourself. Real strength is how strong you are to make it past your challenges. Real strength is how confident you are in your abilities to make it through. It's like they sold us this lie that even if your whole life's falling apart, as long as you're trying to handle it on your own, at least you have something like a consolation prize. But I don't believe that's true at all. I believe it's a lie from the enemy. Because if you look at your friends' lives and your family's lives, look at the people in your life who have been struggling with something on their own. You'll find people who were going through the darkest times of their life. They didn't get anything out of doing it on their own. Am I right? Yes. And I think there's a real power in getting to the end of yourself and getting to the end of my confidence, in my abilities, in my certainty, in my faith, in my hope. Because when you get to that place, there's something to really hold on to. I'm going to get emotional. I'm going to shake it off, all right? Let's go. To really dive into this today, I'm going to bring up the life of Samson. Let's just take a general hands up. How many people heard the story of Samson before? I mean, you're Christian, you're not Christian. Everyone's heard a story about this macho guy, strong guy who's had long hair. He trusted the wrong woman. Poor guy. I feel that. She cut off his hair. He lost his strength. He got blinded. He put in prison. But what shocked me about this story, I literally read it's only 3 chapters in Judges, 13, 14, 15, actually 4, 16. I read it 20 times this past couple weeks. Because it shocked me because when he started his life, he had so many opportunities. He had so much ability. He had so much promise. He had so much things spoken over his life. How did it go so wrong? That's what I was wondering. How did it go so wrong? If anyone can depend on themselves and get through this life, it was Samson. He was strong. He killed 1,000 people with a jawbone. A lion jumped at him and he killed it with his bare hands. If you can have confidence in your own strength and ability, this is the guy. But you know what happened to him? It's the same thing that happened to us. Life happened. He experienced heartbreak. He experienced disappointment. He experienced failure. And how many of us here today experience those same things? We all do. But I want to make the point again. He was literally the strongest person who ever lived. And he could not even depend on himself and make it through the challenges that he faced. That should tell us something. But what I want to do is I want to get us to that nitty-gritty part of his story when he literally realized that his strength had failed him, his confidence had failed him, everything had failed him. That point where his life felt too much for him. That point where he reached the end of himself. And I'm going to invite you guys all open up to Judges chapter 16. It's only 2 verses, 18 and 20. If you guys don't know anything about Samson, I'm going to give you a little background, is that when his parents, they were unable to have a baby. They were struggling to have a baby for a long time. And out of nowhere, one day, an angel came to them and said, listen, you're going to have a baby. He's going to be the one who delivers Israel he's going to lead the charge against Palestine. He's going to take this and he's going to do amazing things. And then the parents were ecstatic. Samson knew it from a young age. His thing was to be committed to God. It's like a Nazirite vow. You're not supposed to shave or cut your hair. So that was his thing. He was going to be this great warrior with a lot of strength. He was going to lead Israel against Palestine. But the thing was, to honor God, he was supposed to not cut his hair or shave as like a devotion to God. So fast forward his life, fast forward his conquest, fast forward 20 years of just conquering Palestine, killing and conquering and winning battles and leading the way. He meets a girl named Delilah. He falls head over heels for her, and they start this relationship. And she gets cornered, and they say, listen, find out his weakness because we need to take this guy out. She found his weakness, and this is the night that she cut off his hair, exposing his weakness to these people. And this is where the story takes off. It says, when Delilah saw that he had told her everything, she went and sent word to the rulers. He told her what his weakness was. She said, come back once more. He has told me everything. So the rulers of the Philistines returned with silver in their hands. After putting him to sleep on her lap, she called for someone to come shave off his braids of hair. And she began to subdue him. And his strength left him. His strength left him. Then she called, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. He awoke from his sleep and thought, oh, no big deal. I'll go out as before and shake myself free. But as soon as he did that, he did not realize the Lord had left him. This is that moment when you face challenges your whole life. We've had tough times our whole life. I don't think there's anyone in here who hasn't struggled before. But you get up, you're ready to go conquer the next hurdle, ready for the next challenge, and all of a sudden you hit a wall and you realize, oh man, this is not the ordinary challenge. Oh man, I'm in over my head. Oh man, I don't have what it takes. Oh man, this is too much of a burden for me. And I imagine his heart sinking down to the middle of his stomach when he's trying to break free of these ropes. Ropes he's broken free his whole life. And he realized he couldn't do anything. And you know what? They came upon him, they mocked him, they abused him, they blinded him, they put him in chains. Oof. What a bad turn of events. And I know there's people in here who kind of know what it's like to be kind of imprisoned by what they're going through. I know there's people here today who've been suffering with addiction. Whether you want to admit it or not, whether you don't want to look around, don't look around. But I know there's some people here who are suffering with pills, with drinking, with drugs, maybe sexual sin. And it started off simple. You knew you had the strength to not be addicted. You thought you had the ability to control your situation. You thought you would do it a little bit here and there just for the relief. And next thing you know, it grows bigger and bigger and it controls you. And I want you to tell you, nobody in the world wakes up one day and says, you know what? I want to be an addict. That's what I want to be. No. You see, it lures you in. It entraps you, it puts you in chains, and it becomes this monster eating at you every single day. This monster you have no control over. And if that's you today, I know sitting in these chairs, you realize you don't have the strength in yourself to overcome it. You don't have the confidence in your control and your abilities to overcome it. You don't. And you, my friend, just like Samson, have reached the end of yourself. Some people here today are struggling with their confidence. Oh man, it hurts. You don't even want to look at yourself in the mirror sometimes. You're afraid to make eye contact with people. Because every time you look at people, you're assuming they're thinking the negative thoughts about you that you feel about yourself. When I had this test, I kind of, for the first time, I'm very been loved my whole life. I had all this confidence because I've been so loved. This test, I looked around at people's faces to say, oh yeah, you failed this test. I know you failed this test. I was going crazy. I don't even know how the devil got a hold of me and was eating at my confidence. And when you're there, it's horrible because you don't have the freedom to be yourself. You don't have the freedom to meet people and to present yourself the way you want to present yourself. You don't have the freedom to love yourself because you're just so scared of what people are thinking. If that's you guys, I want to let you know. I know, just like Samson, you've reached that point in your life when you know your confidence cannot sustain you. You know you reached that point in your life where your strength cannot sustain you, your purpose can't sustain you, your relationships can't sustain you. You've literally reached the end of yourself. Am I right? Some people here today, man, life just like takes these crazy turns. I don't know about you, but it's like you have yourself set, you feel in a good place. Next thing you know, you lose somebody in your life, or some big challenge comes along, or a big test comes along. And all of a sudden, it's just like, man, you're balancing all these balls. You're trying to fight through all these obstacles. And eventually you come to the point where it's like, I just don't have any fight left, Like, I don't know if I can make it through this next couple challenges. I think this challenge might have been the one that's too much for me. I think this is the one that's way too burdensome to me. And you reach that challenge and you face that challenge and you say to yourself, I don't have what it takes. I don't have the strength to get past this anymore. I don't have the fight in me anymore. I fought my whole life. I had a rough childhood, but right now I don't have the fight anymore. You've reached the end of yourself. Lastly, there's some people in here, I know what it's like. You feel like you've been failing God for a long time. You see, God's been calling your name. God's been reaching out to you. God's been searching for you, and God's talked to you a couple times. But when it's your turn to do the right thing, or when it's your turn to follow God, or when it's your turn to say no to sin, sometimes you just feel like you failed God. And it's becoming a point where you just want to give up. You're thinking, this faith walk, it would be beautiful if I could live up to it, but it's just making me feel bad about myself. And you reach the point where you've reached the end of yourself. So when you don't have that anymore, what do you find? What is there staring at you to help you get through this? When you can't depend on yourself. I imagine Samson was asking himself that same question when he got imprisoned, he got enchained, and now let's go to the next part of the story. We're going to go to Judges 16. We're going to skip down to verses 23 through 30. So it says, this is after they imprisoned him, they said, now the rulers of the Philistines assembled to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon their god and celebrated, saying, our God has delivered Samson, our enemy, into our hands. When the people saw him, they praised their God, saying, our God has delivered our enemy into our hands, the one who has laid waste on our land and multiplied our slain. And they were in high spirits, and they shouted, bring him out to entertain us. So they called Samson out of prison, and he performed for them. I want to make 2 points real quick. The first point is, when we're struggling and we reach the end of ourselves, I feel like the devil celebrates. Have you ever noticed, like when you're down, it feels like people are kicking you when you're down? Or it feels like I'm losing, somebody must feel like they're winning. The devil is out there to keep us down and to break us down, to reach the end of yourself and to try to teach you. You have to depend on yourself to get through this. But you have nothing left. And you're stuck. And you see, when Samson came out, he was so defeated, he literally entertained the crowd. I bet you in the middle of that stadium, he looked around and he was thinking to himself, where's my strength? Where's that strength I used to depend on all the time? Where's that confidence I had in myself that I used to depend on all the time? Where's that purpose that God spoke over me that I could rely on and have rest in? Look at me now. He was enchained. He couldn't see anything. He was beaten down. He was defeated. He was sucker punched. He couldn't breathe. He was burdened. I hope some of you guys here today who are feeling that way are really just wrestling with that feeling. And I want to talk to you about what he does next. When they stood him among the pillars after he just embarrassed himself and entertained this massive crowd, Samson said to the servant who held his hand, said, put me where I can feel the pillars that support the temple so I may lean against him. He was exhausted and broken down. And now the temple was crowded with men and women. All the rulers of the Philistines were there. And on the roof were about 3,000 men and women watching Samson perform. Then Samson prayed to the Lord, sovereign Lord, remember me. All he could do was ask God to remember him. Just remember me, God. You see, I think in the heart when he said that prayer, he knew what he really deserved. He rejected God. He disobeyed God. He was a punk. He did his own thing. He made his own decisions. I bet you he was thinking in the bottom of his heart, I deserve every bit of this. God, I deserve to be rejected. I deserve for you not to live and listen to my prayers. God, I deserve to be not only blinded but tortured out here. He was sitting there praying, remember me. But I bet you every part of him was trying to remind him that he didn't even deserve to be remembered. But he sucked it in. He found the strength to continue his prayer. He said, please, God, strengthen me just once more and let me with one blow get the revenge for my 2 eyes. And then he reached out, the 2 central pillars and the temple stood, bracing himself against them, his right hand on the one and his left hand on the other. And he tried to push. And I bet you as he started to push, in his heart, he expected nothing more but another heartbreak, another letdown, another feeling of rejection, another feeling of not even being heard by God. I bet you he did it almost out of just like whatever. I'm just going to go for it. But you guys know what he found at that moment? Do you know what he found? When you reach the end of your strength, when you reach the end of your confidence, when you reach the end of your own abilities, do you know what he found? He found God's grace. He found God's grace with arms open wide. He's found God's grace who went to go reach him and hold him tight. He found God's grace which freed him, which forgave him, which made him new, which restored him, which empowered him, which carried him, which loved him, which gave him peace. I want you guys to know, when we reach the end of ourselves, we find grace, and grace changes everything. It really changes everything. And with all my heart tonight, I plead with everyone here to let you guys wrestle with what God's grace actually means. Because when I look at my life, I'm a broken mess. You know, I make mistakes all the time. I disobey God all the time, just like Samson. And all the time I fail God. Sometimes my own strength fails. My planning fails. My decisions fail. But when I think about grace, you know what I see? I see that I get another chance. When I think about grace, I think about something I never will deserve and never will earn. I experience love that I can rest at night and lay my head down at night. And in my last month, in my last season of my brokenness and my weakness and reaching the end of myself, I want to tell you guys that I've learned to just enjoy God's grace so much. It's just overwhelmed me. What I'm going to ask right now is I'm going to ask Richard to come to the stage and give me a little bit of keys. And Shindy, can you bring over that table for me? Every once in a while, guys, life jumps on us. Life takes us. We fall, we stand up, we fall again. Life takes these turns. And every once in a while, you need a reminder that God's grace stands strong, that God's grace is so sweet, that it saves us, that it embraces us, that it empowers us, that it holds us. You need a reminder because it's so easy to take your eyes off God. It's so easy to take your eyes off what's real truth, what really matters. It's so easy to lose track of where you should get your confidence from, and your self-worth from, and your love from, and your purpose from, and your peace from. It's not from you. It's not from what you do. It's not what you can do. That's not where you get it. Because if that's the case, it's going to fail you all the time. Like it failed me this last month. And tonight we're going to do something completely different. We've never done this at the 12-2. What we're going to do is we're going to take some time and get a physical reminder of God's grace. And that's communion. It's a time when you sit there and you look at the bread and you look at that cup of juice and you say, God, what you did for me, I did not deserve. God, what you did for me, I don't know why you did it. God, what you did for me in the middle of my weakness and my brokenness and everything that I offer you, you give me the opposite of it. And to really just take this moment, we're going to explain how we're going to do it. We're going to do this a little differently. But before we do that, I'm going to invite Joyce and Sammy to the stage. You see, they've been wrestling with this same topic about God's grace, what communion really means, that getting that reminder deep in our souls and deep in our hearts. And they put together a little piece, a little spoken word. And after the spoken word, let's take that moment and let's rejoice and let's praise. We're going to sing a worship song all together. And then I'm going to come back to the stage and we're going to walk us through the communion that we want to go through together. Everyone okay with that? All right, so I'm going to get this out of the way. Do you want to stand? Here you go.
I need a moment. I need this moment, just this one, to retreat, to flee with wounded feet, heaving heart, and tired eyes, away from the clanging cacophony of chaos and crowds clamoring for confidence and conviction in something, away from the polluted air of an arrogant world aspiring to ash, away from the matte gloss technicolor Photoshop statistics and measurements that demand to set my worth, to place a value on what you have called beyond value. Away from the wailing winds that banter like a banshee against the quiet whispers of your words. I need a moment. Just a moment in this green place between us. I need to breathe you in like a sweet August night full of health and promise and rich, fertile, growing hope that bursts fresh awake in the morning. To be silent until the eternal heartbeat is the only sound I hear in the sanctuary. To let your grace fall in sheets of pure rain over my dusty, straining soul. Can I have a moment to just know you? Just a percentage of a fraction of the infinity of who you are. To see the God who gilds the waves in the silver foil of sunlight. To press into the arms that erected Everest. To hear the voice of the one who spoke the Alps, raspberries, eyelashes, sunrises, harmonies, snowstorms into existence. To feel that voice reverberate off the ribs that you snatched from Adam until it comes to a roaring roar. You are mine. I need a moment to catch my breath, to be honest, to peel back the bandages and uncover the raw heart wounds of sin and toxic infection that were inflicted before I walked in this clean, whole place. I need to show you things you've already seen, to tell you things you've already heard, to throw myself face forward, no safety net, into those arms that erected Everest, and trust you will say, you are mine. You are forgiven. It is done. It will only take us a moment.
Jesus looks at us, deep at us, into eyes and into soul, and he knows. And yet he says, I give you everything I have and all that I am. I gave up all my comfort to give you comfort. I give up all my heart so that you can know my Father's heart. I gave all my mind so that you could walk in light. I gave my whole body so that you could be made whole. I gave all my blood so that in my Father's presence, all he can see is my love for you. You are the reason I came down, the reason I chose to die. And my death covers your every sin. There are no disqualifiers, no except if clauses. The enemy will try to tell you that your sin is too great, that your sin isn't covered by my grace. But the only qualifier is repent and believe that my love was precisely for your abortion, your addiction, your adulterous heart, your divorce, your murderous anger, your poisonous pride, your feigned belief. I came as a physician not to heal the healthy, nor to condemn the sick, but to heal the wounded. I laid my life down so that you could build your life on me, the only rock-solid foundation. And it's always been about filling up your emptiness, redeeming your held-up brokenness, lavish forgiveness, teaching dry bones to dance again. And when you're wishing that you lived a life that really matters, I say, you matter this much to me. And I would do it all over again because I chased that one lost sheep relentlessly. And Jesus, you could have fled the cross, fled the pain, fled the nails, the shame, the death. But because you loved me, you chose to stay. Love kept you, Son of God, lying on a cross as nails pierced flesh, pounded into flesh, freed us from our flesh, overcame our flesh, and we eat and we remember how deeply and dangerously you love us. And we can keep pouring into others, keep getting crucified with you, keep being unfairly criticized at work because you offer us the only drink that really satisfies in this world, and we keep taking the cup. So we take and we break and we eat the body that was broken for us. We taste and see your goodness. We eat your love and are full with a fullness that doesn't change our circumstances, but changes us, remains in us, abides in us. We taste and see the grace poured out for us. We linger in the taste of God made man to link our hand with the Father's hand. You draw us close and we can breathe. The thirst of parched throats finally relieved, undone by the wonder that you've done. And communion with God casts away the devil, unfurls tendrils from around heart, and says that you have no place in this body, in this heart, and in this mind. And I may not be able to overcome, but God in me overcoming me can overcome any attack of Satan. And our communion is saying that the victory has already been won. It is done. We follow you into the quiet place where we are gently washed in Jesus' love. We thank you, Jesus, with souls made light by grace. You are the greatest blessing, the one that remains when all else crumbles and frays. And we feel the truth sinking in, that this wasn't about a one-time pursuit of us. This was a lifelong wooing of us. The Spirit of God moving to show a Father's love for us, because you created us each individually. You love and rejoice over each personality, and you say, you, friend, beloved, son, there's no one like you. No one else will do. My heart longs for you. And we take the bread and we drink the wine and we whisper it in a hushed holy. Yes, Jesus, abide in me, and I choose to abide in you. And all God's people said, amen.